Eliot, are you ready? Are the recorders running? Let's start the show. Welcome to Not Your Mother Presents this episode of Fly on the Wall Radio. We have a very special guest. John Altman. Eliot and John have become fast friends. Eliot thinks so anyway. The guys chatted about John and his playing with Muddy Waters, Bob Marley, Van Morrison, Sting, Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton to name a few, and also how he scored music for several famous films including Titanic, Monty Python, Shall We Dance and TV drama Peak Practice. Beginning with his work in the late 60s, with his roots in jazz, and still leading his own big band in the UK and USA, John is a prolific and accomplished musician. So let's get started. Remember that this radio show is listener funded. If you wish to contribute, our PayPal info is notyourmothersradio@gmail.com. That's notyourmothersradio@gmail.com. We would like to thank you in advance. We really need the help. I'll tell you, I've come to love you as a person. You're incredible, and what's amazing about you is that you're so humble. Like, it just kind of happened. All this stuff just happened. You had nothing to do with it. You just happened to be the person receiving all of it. It's just amazing how you just got through all of this with without a big swelled head.
It boggles me as well.
Does it? Does it really?
Yes, I look back and I just think, because I hadn't actually pre-planned the career path, that I stumbled into all these things, I could do that. Oh, I'll play that. Yes, I'll do this, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, I never lacked the confidence of thinking I can do that.
Right.
But I would never, if something came up, it was always, I can have a go. Why not?
Do you think it's because of your background, because of your, just your relatives and everything else?
That's possibly part of it.
You come from a long line of great arrangers and musicians, and
yeah, I was very lucky on that front because, as I told you before, by the time I was old enough to know what I was doing, I was basically learning how to write music, listen to music, understand improvisation, understand arranging. And it was just purely by listening to music and thinking that what you heard was actually, I didn't really know what it was. I just thought, a bunch of people get together and they make this noise, and yeah. I never really thought about how it happened or why it happened, just that I liked it. So when it came time for me to deconstruct it and do it myself, I found it really, I won't say easy, but I didn't find it difficult, let's say that.
Okay, but you were able to make it happen, which is the important thing. So, let me ask you a question. Do you remember the first gold album or gold record that you received? You have a lot of them. The first one.
Oh, the first one. I think it was a silver disc for the Ruttles.
Really? Well.
Yeah, I think so.
And how'd you feel getting it?
Oh, it's great. It was about the same time. It was the Ruttles and Life of Brian. They were almost simultaneous. Okay. So I just felt swept up in the notion that I was part of, not knowing that it was something that would last till today and beyond, but at the time, everybody wanted to be involved with Monty Python.
Right.
I was just a lucky guy who lucked out,
Right. So, and you were in the music business for a while before that happened. That didn't happen overnight. You did the Van Morrison thing. You did the hot chocolate thing. That was all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it didn't happen quick. It took a while to get that first.
No, I was lucky in a way because when I went to university to study English literature, I didn't have to go on the road with a band. So my playing experiences during my whole time at university and slightly beyond were non-paying jam sessions almost, you know.
Sure.
And when I say jam sessions, I mean I would show up at a Fleetwood Mac gig or a Kevin Ayers gig and just say, if it was the first time, you know, do you think I can sit in? And nobody would ever say no.
Well, and when you say Fleetwood Mac, you mean the real Fleetwood Mac.
I mean Peter Green's, yes.
Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac. And, that must have been wild. He was a brilliant musician.
I don't think any of the newer lot would have welcomed me.
Yeah, I mean, the newer lot didn't welcome him back. Did you ever hear that story at the Hall of Fame?
Oh, it's the whole Peter Green and Fleetwood Mac scenario. To me, I've heard so much of their side of what went on.
Yeah,
and I've known the other side, you know, without wanting to get into criticism or anything. I mean, the basic thing was that Peter completely outstripped what they could do musically. He just left them in the lurch. I mean, it's like John Coltrane playing with a bunch of beginners. You know, it was Peter's musical advancement had gone so far, and they were basically a blues band. You know, a good rock blues band. Jeremy Spencer was an Elmore James impersonator. Mick was a very good blues drummer, but couldn't really do much more. John was a very good blues bass player, and when I say couldn't do much more, they didn't aspire to do much more.
Right.
You know, they were comfortable in that little niche that they had.
Right.
Well, Peter wanted to expand.
Yeah. But the whole thing is that, did you hear the Hall of Fame story when he came out to get his award? They wouldn't even let him play. And the Santana band let him play Black Magic Woman with them.
That's right. Yes, that does ring a bell.
Yeah, you met Michael Shreve on our last conference. Yeah, he got his Hall of Fame award that night as well, and he knew Peter from the Fleetwood Mac days. Peter used to
wasn't Michael the one who got Carlos Santana to record Black Magic Woman?
Yeah, that's the story. Yeah, so, you know, Peter was staying with him in his house. He used to let Peter stay in his house when they were on tour. And Peter didn't even remember anybody in the band that night. He was just so, you know, by the time it happened, you know, by the time the awards were given out.
When he came to my gig with James Tormé in 2015, I was amazed he came, you know, because I hadn't seen him for 45 years.
Yeah.
I showed him photos of us on stage, and he recognised Duster Bennett straight away, but pointed to the singer and said, "Who's he?" And I know that this was his closest friend, you know, at that time.
Yeah. So,
not making a fuss and not saying, "Oh, come on, you must know who it is."
Yeah.
I told him the name, and he said, "Oh, I don't remember him."
Yeah. What a shame. What a great talent that. Yeah. But so important. Yeah. So important.
And
so many of those guys. Kevin Ayers too was chased by demons his whole life. Another guy who could have been huge. What a talented man he was.
Well, Kevin sort of had a self-destruct, I don't want to be too famous button.
Yeah. And he
pushed every time it looked like he would break into the world. And he had influential fans. It was, you know, people like Elton John and people who could have made him a huge star.
Yeah, I mean, he worked with Mike Oldfield. You know,
Nico. Well, Mike was in the band. Mike was just another band member.
Right. Yeah, you worked with Mike Oldfield too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well,
I played with him a lot when he was with Kevin when he was 17.
Right.
I then put on some festivals down in Brighton, had him come down and play at them.
Wow.
And then I was down to play as a reserve on the Tubular Bells concert because the flute wasn't too well, and then they recovered, so I just went and sat in the audience.
Yeah, I heard, was that the first time they played Tubular Bells?
Yeah, that was at the Queen Elizabeth Hall.
And what's his name? Mick Taylor played guitar that night too, right?
I think he might have done. Kevin was on it. Viv Stanzel of the Bonzos narrated it.
Yeah.
And I sat in the audience next to Mick Jagger, which is
wow.
just about the only time I've ever met him.
Wow. And yeah, so I think Mick Taylor actually, and I understand he was out of tune the whole night. Taylor was out of tune, and nobody knew, and it was just a great night. It supposedly was like a magical event that happened. But yeah.
Oh, I had a great time, and I was very friendly with Mike, except once I bumped into him in Gloucester when he was in his reclusive days with a sort of ankle-length coat and shaggy beard, and he sort of jumped back and he professed not to know me or Kevin Ayers or anything I talked about. Yeah.
Wow.
And then a year later, he was sort of kissing me and jumping on my back.
Wow.
Very strange.
Wow. Yeah, and he worked with Kevin for a while.
He did, yeah. I mean, the last time I saw him was on a video link from the Bahamas at Kevin's funeral.
Oh, okay.
He came on and spoke.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, Kevin and Ollie Hassel was a great guitarist.
Yeah, Ollie was my best friend. Yeah.
Yep. And you worked with Ollie as well, I'm assuming.
Well, Ollie was the person who got me involved with the Pythons.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I went to see a band called, I think it was Boxer. Tempest.
Okay.
Don Heisman's band.
Oh, okay.
That Alan was in. And Ollie asked me to go the following day to do a Monty Python session.
Oh, wow.
So we drove there, and that was it. That was how I started.
Wow. And pretty much you just not took over, but you were so influential, that whole Monty Python, whatever they did musically.
Well, I became one of the go-to music people.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then, the Ruddles, it all kind of evolved from, incredible.
Yeah, from Rutland Weekend Television, Eric Idle's TV show with Bill Innes. Yeah.
And the Bonzos?
Yeah, I knew the Bonzos. I never actually played with them, but I met them in 1968 at the TV studio.
Wow.
And I used to see them in concert,
yeah.
But I didn't know them as the Bonzos. I knew them individually afterwards.
Okay.
Dennis Cowan played in one of my bands. Viv Stansel was a friend. Legs Larry Smith I knew very well. And of course Neil Innes I worked with for over 40 years.
Right. Wow, so it's all connected. Now the Bonzos were the band that played on Magical Mystery Tour when the Beatles were
absolutely
sick. Yeah, that was that's a little trivia fact that very few people know. The Bonzos were in the Magical Mystery Tour.
And Paul McCartney produced I'm the Urban Spaceman, which was their only hit record.
Yeah, wow. I used to love the Bonzos. They were incredible. Yeah. So, going back to Kevin Ayers, he was destructive. He, that whole. They put out that album June 1st with Brian Eno and John Cale. Now Kevin had a quick fling with Cale's wife the night before the concert.
I didn't play, but I took Ollie Halsall to the concert.
So
and I backstage.
So I'm assuming that there's a lot of tension there.
There was an awful lot of tension.
Yeah, I know. And John Cale wrote that song, for him, and So man, what a way to start a show. But John Cale,
I was just going to say, in that scene, every relationship seems so fluid because you'd turn up and you'd see Kevin's girlfriend with Robert Wyatt, and then you'd see Kevin with somebody else's wife, and then you'd see, and you just took it for granted. Oh, you know, who's going to be with who today?
Yeah. Well, those were the crazy years. But
they were crazy, right?
Yeah. Cale did a pretty tough tune about the event. So, so you are such a integral part of British music that I don't think anything went down that they didn't have you touch it somewhere or somehow.
Well, I mean, I've always sort of been proud, if you want to call it proud, of the fact that everything that I worked on seems to have stayed the course.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing ephemeral junk that was going to vanish after 3 weeks. But the singing frog or something like that, you know. It all lasted, which is great.
Was that luck or was that planned? I mean, was that just the way it worked?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I ever really got offered absolute rubbish. People wouldn't come to me and say, "Oh, we need a number one hit with some gimmicky, you know, fad that's going to go out of fashion in about 3 weeks."
Yeah.
But it would be Tina Turner or Rod Stewart or George Michael.
Right.
And you sort of knew that this was a class above what the pop music was at the time.
Okay.
I never particularly realised, looking back, I do realise, of course, that all the artists I work with would 50 years later be still iconic or in the Hall of Fame or whatever.
Viable, yeah. Wow. What a career. So
and that goes for people like, you know, Nick Drake and Bob Marley and Amy Winehouse. And I just think to the right people way along.
Yeah, yep. So I was going to ask you about that. I know you worked with... I know you started out and you jammed with people. I just want this on the record that you jammed with Jimi Hendrix, with Peter Green. You played sax in in bands that in groups that jam bands, and so you were actually there from the start. I'm speaking to some of the guys Friday from the Pretty Things.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and I know you must have had something to do with the Pretty Things somewhere along the line.
Well, again, our paths crossed. I mean, Twink, who later joined the Pretty Things and was also in the Pink Fairies, is a good friend. And I played with him a lot, funnily enough, with Kevin Ayers as well. But Viv Prince I knew during the days of the Pretty Things.
Right.
But the rest of them, although we were on the same bill quite often, I wasn't really in their circle.
Right.
It's strange. You would get certain bands and you knew everyone and you knew everyone who splintered off.
Sure.
And there were others who you just knew who they were, but you might see them, but you weren't particularly close friends or anything like that.
I spoke to Wally about 2 weeks ago, Wally Waller.
Oh, yeah.
And he's supposedly coming on with John this Friday, John Pavey.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so we'll see how that works out. And I may have a line to Eric Burden. I'm waiting to hear from Eric.
Wonderful.
Yeah, he talks to Zoot once a week.
Yes.
Yeah. So Zoot is working that out. Eric's in
I last played with him at the 40th anniversary of Monterey Pop.
Oh, wow.
And we had a jam session with Eric, Donovan, and guys from Moby Grape.
Wow. That's what I'm saying. It's just amazing. You're in the right place, always at the right place, kind of. It's kind of magical. So we know about the Peter Green thing. We know about the Kevin Ayers, Nico thing. You went to you started going to college and you left to work with Hot Chocolate.
No, yeah, I was at university in Brighton at Sussex.
Uh-huh.
I came back to London University to do a doctorate in English.
Yep.
And I was asked to join Hot Chocolate in about 75. And I gave up all the academic stuff while I was with Hot Chocolate. I couldn't juggle them.
Right. And Hot Chocolate was a pretty influential band in their day. They had a couple of hits.
They were the biggest selling singles band after the Beatles.
Yep.
And they had a hit every year of the 70s, 80s, and I think 90s.
Wow.
Or maybe certainly the 70s and 80s.
Right.
They hit the charts every single year.
Now, did you you never officially recorded with Hendrix?
No.
Okay. But you did record with Bob Marley.
No, I didn't record with Bob Marley, but I took him around London and the Wailers, particularly the Wailers, because Al Anderson, who still plays in the Wailers,
yeah.
And I were in a soul band together in London in the 70s.
Wow. Al's a great player.
Yeah, JR Steamroller Company. We played all over London, really.
Yeah.
We had a residency at the Ronnie Scott's and the Café des Artistes.
Oh, wow.
And Al rang me one day, and it happened to be a birthday party of mine. Said, "Is anything going on?" I said, "Well, it's my birthday party." "Oh, can we come along?" And that's how the Wailers came to my birthday.
Wow.
Just joined.
Wow.
And then I took them around London. I took them to hear Ian Dury. I took them to the Speakeasy. I took them to the string conductor.
You took them to hear Ian Dury?
Sorry?
Did you say Ian Dury?
Yeah, I took them to hear Ian Dury at Dingwalls.
Yeah, I'm going to be speaking to Chaz Jankel in a bit.
Well, Chaz Jankel and I were in a band together in 1960.
See what I mean? Scary. It's scary. There's nothing.
We go back like back there and beyond.
Yeah. Wow.
And in fact, Chaz did a record called Questionnaire.
Yeah, I love that song. That's incredible.
I arranged it.
You did?
I arranged that, yes.
That's his greatest tune. That's an incredible song. Wow.
Ian Dury lyric, yeah.
Wow.
Ian did, definitely.
Yeah, and then Reason to Be, that's Ian Dury. It was Questionnaire and I'll think of the second tune that I love from his in a minute. But yeah, so somebody's Cherry Red Records is working out a connection for me and Chaz. He agreed to do it, so now we just have to figure out how.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah.
Well, when you do, give him my best. We talk again.
Yeah, so I got a better idea. You call him and give him my best.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, this band, people talk about bands that you have when you're a kid.
Yes.
It was Chaz, me, Rick Parnell, who was Mick Shrimpton in Spinal Tap, Pete Van Hook, who was the drummer of Mike and the Mechanics, and Van Morrison, and produced Tanita Tikaram and various other things, and me. And this is a schoolboy band.
Wow. Well, scary. It's just...
When we rehearsed, 5-year-old George Michael sat outside listening to us.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Because his father owned the restaurant next door where we rehearsed.
Wow. It's
amazing.
You're like the Forrest Gump of music. It's scary. It really is.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow. So there's really nobody you don't know. I'll throw a name at you. I had an interview with... I had an interview with Jonah Louie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to play with him in Brett Marvin and the Thunderbolt.
Wow. So that's what I'm saying. There's nothing in British music in the UK. Anything came out of the UK that you...
Somewhere along way.
Somewhere along the way. Yeah. Wow. So, and it's not even just that one era. I mean, like Zoot. Zoot Money was very popular in his day. So you knew, you know Zoot, but you were able to travel on, to the Stiff Records people, Graham Parker, and all that stuff, to the Kevin Harris. I know Zoot knew Kevin, but I mean,
and John, with playing with people like Pharrell and John Legend and Amy Winehouse.
Yeah,
it's gone all the way through.
Yep. How about now? Anything now? I know you're locked up now in the house, but
I mean, musically, not really much happening. I mean, I've got some things in the pipeline that may happen when we come out of lockdown.
Okay.
But I have finished my autobiography, which I've mentioned to you before.
Yes, looking forward to that.
And that will be published today. I got my chapters in proper book form, so I'm just reading through them to see how they survive, and it's good. I mean, I'm up to about page 117. I've still got 10 chapters to read.
Wow. So
I've obviously been productive.
So reading that book about you, are you amazed?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And that's what I love. That's what I love about you. Like, you're always shocked that somebody knows that you did something, that you're involved in something.
Well, the scary thing as well is that I kept remembering stories that I hadn't put in.
Right.
And in the middle of the night, and then rushing down first thing in the morning and going, "Oh, I've got to put that in." And
yeah.
In it.
Wow. Did you keep you kept journals and things?
Yeah. I've got all my diaries from 1965 through to about 2010.
Wow. Yeah, so no wonder you have 10 more chapters. Incredible. So I'm going to just...
Well, the interesting as well is it's got stuff like... and I know he's become a sort of cult legend figure, Nick Drake.
Yeah.
And I was at the gig where I had an hour-long conversation with him, trying to convince him not to give up playing in public.
Wow.
And it's in my diary.
Really?
So if anyone said, "Oh, come on, you can just say anything because he's not around anymore," but there it is in my diary.
Right. I remember I was there with you guys. No, I'm just fooling. I wasn't there. Well, I could say anything I want, but no, you have the proof.
Great times.
Yeah, wow. And Nick Drake, I have all his. I collected all of his stuff, and I've listened to it numerous times. And there's some great stuff there. There really is.
Oh, it is wonderful.
Yeah, and Richard Thompson is on part of
it.
Richard. There's some great stuff there, and I wonder what would have happened if he continued.
The thing about Richard is, I have never played music with Richard, but I played cricket with him.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, it's isn't
it? I mean, we know the same people, and I've worked with Linda, his ex-wife.
Sure. Wow.
She sang on a John Lennon tribute show that I put together for the BBC.
Wow. Yeah, and that's another whole. Another whole aspect. You've been involved in films, TV. You've been in all aspects of it. How the heck did you have time to do all that stuff?
I don't know. I write it down and I think, how? Yeah. Particularly, a lot of it was simultaneous.
It'd be your right shoulder. That's a Grammy?
That's an Emmy.
I'm an Emmy. Okay, I can't see it that great from where I am. Okay, and that's an Emmy
I've got Grammy certificates in the bathroom.
Okay. So what's that award for?
The Emmy is for a film called Arco 281.
Okay.
It's about the making of Citizen Kane. 3 days Mank.
Well,
same ground, but with John Malkovich and Liev Schreiber, produced by Ridley Scott. Very good film.
And you see, that's what's so amazing. But not only have you touched so many kind of rubbed elbows with so many musicians. But you've been in the film industry for a good number of years now too. Some of the films you've worked on are just epic, are just huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I always say to people, I'm responsible for 3 sequences in movies that everybody in the world knows, which is extraordinary. Which is Always Look on the Bright Side of Life in Life of Brian.
Yep.
The tank chase in Goldeneye, the James Bond film, and the ship sinking in Titanic.
Yep. Wow.
All of which I'm responsible for.
Yeah. Boy, you're a troublemaker on films, huh?
Not bad going. No, most people would say, it's great to have done one movie that people remember.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky because I've got a whole batch of them.
Well, yeah, it's more.
If I name it.
Yeah, it's more than luck. I mean, you have the goods that back it up. I mean, I'm just looking at some of your credits here. I mean, the people that you've I'm gonna read out a couple of them. Obviously, we all know you've worked with Rod Stewart. You've worked with Tina Turner. I told you I was listening to I forgot who I was listening Barry White. You've worked with Barry White.
Yeah.
I mean, there's every aspect of you worked on Downtown Train with Rod Stewart, right?
Yep.
And you arranged that. You've arranged music for Diana Ross, Bork. You did the All-Star Band for the '81 Amnesty International benefit show. You did, Secret Policeman's Other Ball, and that you worked with Sting, Clapton, Beck, Phil Collins, Bob Geldof, Donovan, and Midge, and it doesn't get any crazier than that. There was insanity. There was great stuff, and
well, I mean, the crazy thing was I was the band leader for all of them.
Yeah.
They had to take my direction.
Right. And did they listen?
Right.
Did they listen?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Bossing around, what could be better?
Yeah, wow. So, what sticks out of your mind as being like one of the most incredible things that you think you've done?
There's so many that I could point out. I mean, playing-wise, to have Muddy Waters and his band at my 21st.
Yeah.
That's, I can never forget that.
Wow. How'd that happen? How'd that happen?
Completely by accident. My friend Alan Molina, who's now in LA, was the social secretary at the university. And he was my flatmate. And he booked Muddy Waters on the night of my party to play at a venue on the university campus. And that's my party was another part of the university.
Okay.
And Alan basically, cut a long story short, Alan said to Muddy and the band, "You're all invited to this party afterwards. There's going to be food." And in England in the 70s, the early 70s, you couldn't get a meal after 8 o'clock at night.
Right.
It was impossible. So they all trooped down to my party where there was food. A lot of my friends like Rick Parnell had brought equipment down, but there were no amplifiers or microphones.
Uh-huh.
So the roadies came in as well, and one of the guests at my party had been a marshal at Woodstock.
Oh, okay.
And they recognised her, and they said, "We know you." And she said, "Yeah, you look familiar." And she had looked after Canned Heat at Woodstock.
Oh, wow.
So they had a big reunion, and they said, "What's with all this gear?" And she said, "Oh, it's a terrible shame. John's invited all his friends, and there are no microphones or amps." And they said, "Oh, we'll sort that out." And next thing I knew, the back doors opened, and in came all the Rolling Stones gear, which they borrowed for the tour.
Wow.
So basically, my friends got up and played, and Muddy and the band came out the back room, and then Muddy said, "Can we play?" And I thought, oh, okay.
If you have to.
So we started leaving the stage, and Muddy said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Well, you want to play?" He said, "No, you stay up here and play with us."
Oh, wow.
And that was it. This is about midnight. We were thrown out at 7 a.m.
Wow.
Still playing.
Wow.
Still playing.
Yeah, I can understand why that's, incredible. That's,
So that's got to be a highlight.
Yeah.
I mean, playing with Van was a highlight. You know, having a number one record was the highlight. There are so many. I mean, it's after a while, I wouldn't say you expect things to be successful, because you never do. You never know what they're going to do.
Sure.
But the satisfaction of doing something that everybody knows is fantastic. The only problem, of course, is that when you work on something like Titanic, after you finish, for 2 years, you're telling people, "Oh, I did Titanic," and they're going, "What's that? We don't know what you're talking about."
Right.
And then 2 years later, the film comes out, and everyone's going, "Oh, you did this, you did that," and you're struggling to remember what it is they're talking about because it's 2 years ago.
Wow. But you released an album, right? You had an album out.
I've put out a couple.
Right.
And I've got a big band album in the can that I want to put out soon. I had a quartet album out, a jazz album done in LA, with
some great players.
Oh yeah, Greg Bissonette, great drummer.
Yep.
Tom Rainier, Chuck Berghofer, who was with Sinatra for years. Bill Cunliffe, Brinker.
Was Les McCann in that band?
Sorry?
Les McCann?
No, I played with Les McCann at Slim Gaylard's Memorial in London.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And Percy Q, yeah.
Yeah, so your album came out in 2006, right?
Yeah, it must be that long ago.
Yep. And so let's see who's in that band. Okay, because you mentioned, and then you were patron of the National Jazz Archives. So you've been, so that's another whole aspect. You're noted as a jazz player. You're an accomplished jazz player.
I enjoy playing jazz, and I enjoy being recognizable in the sense that I don't necessarily sound like anyone other than myself, which is always what I've wanted to do.
Yep.
Like music. It's difficult keeping the playing going, as you can imagine, when you're in the studio so much writing.
Yeah.
But I've always tried to keep the playing side going.
Yes.
And not just in jazz, the funk thing as well. I love playing with Stevie Wonder's band or Prince's band.
And I remember that story you told me about your uncle telling you that you're going to stop playing and just.
Oh yeah. He was convinced I wouldn't be able to keep it up.
Yep.
Which sort of spurred me on to think, right, I'm going to do it more.
There you go. Are you playing now? Just hanging out in the house? Just, kicking back?
I haven't played much. I've got the horn out a couple of times just to see if I can still make a noise on it.
Yeah.
But I have to get back in trim if I'm going to come out again.
Get back into shape.
I spend most of the time writing the book, really.
Right. Okay. Now you also did work with Andy Summer, Pearls of Wisdom.
Yeah, we had a little band together. Andy's one of my older friends, and of course grew up with Zoot.
Wow.
And we went to Shanghai a lot every year.
Oh, really?
We would make a trip to Shanghai and hang out. And again, the last time I saw Andy was probably, it definitely was the last time I was in the States, which would be October 2019.
Okay.
Quite a while ago.
Yeah. So you were rabble rouser. You kind of look like You don't look.
No.
Yeah, you don't look like the guy who would start any trouble, but you've.
No, I'm very mellow.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, because you don't look like the type of guy who's going to start, making a lot of noise and stuff. So the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, you were a guest conductor there. So,
absolutely.
Yep, and you were on the American Society of Music Arrangers and Composers. I mean, there's nothing. Council of the British Academy of Film and Television, BAFTA.
Yep, I was on that.
Yep. And you worked on the final Pete Seeger pieces.
I did. His last ever record.
Yeah. And that must have been incredible.
That was great. I mean, the album, which is not that well known, but it's really good. It's for Amnesty International, and it was the songs of Bob Dylan.
Yep.
On the 50th anniversary. And I did 2 tracks. I did Forever Young with Pete Seeger, with Bella Fleck on banjo.
Bella Fleck, yeah.
Mark Hudson produced it. Wonderful. And then I did a George Harrison, Bob Dylan collaboration, a song called I'd Have You Anytime.
Right.
Where the band was Patrice Rushen,
yeah,
Ed Livingston, Lawrence Juba from Wings, Peyton Cameron, great drummer, Tom Scott on saxophone, who of course was George's best mate, and Rachel Wood singing, who was amazing.
Well, I have that album. It's a great album, a great set.
It is a good album.
Yeah, it is. A lot of great people on that album. So let's see. Okay. So let's get to a little more of the current stuff. You had that. You were working out of that club on Monday nights. You co-hosted. Let's see. You were the co-founder, co-host for 7 years of the 10 Rooms Monday Night, right?
Yep.
And,
wonderful night.
Yeah, and tell us about some of the guys who passed through that.
Oh, I mean, it was basically a house band and whoever came in and wanted to join in.
Right.
So we had Will Smith, Shaka Khan, Lionel Richie, The Roots, Ja Rule, Sean Paul, Nas,
Macy Gray,
Pharrell, Eddie Griffin, Chris Tucker,
Black Eyed Peas,
Amy Winehouse, Joss Stone. It was incredible night out.
And that was just a night of bashing around some music and seeing what happened, huh?
Yeah, it was the Monday night hang with music. And, oh, look, here comes Shaka Khan. Oh, do you want to sing? Great.
Wow.
Half an hour set. Thank you.
Incredible. And you were pretty tight with Amy Winehouse.
Yeah, well, Amy was 16 or 17 when I first met her.
Yeah.
And she was just one of the audience, really. Nobody, I mean, she wouldn't publicize her own music or anything like that. But she would get up and sing and we would play together. And we stayed friendly right till, well, almost the end of her life, really.
Right. And, yeah, that was a shame. She would have been, what a voice.
What a waste.
Yeah.
What a waste.
Yeah, she was incredible. So, that must have been great, just, hanging out with these people, just, playing, no, like I like to say, no scripts and no agendas. Whatever happened, happened.
Yeah, no pressure at all,
Yeah, that's,
probably. That's what I always felt when, for example, Stevie Wonder's band or Prince's band were in England. They just wanted to let their hair down, and play whatever came to mind. Sometimes even Stevie Wonder tunes.
Yeah, well. So
you'd be playing I Do with Stevie Wonder's band, which is wonderful.
Yeah, wow. And I bet there's some great... Nobody recorded any of that, huh?
I hope somebody did.
Yeah.
Fun enough, some of the film of the 10 Room shows has emerged.
Oh, really?
I do have that.
Well...
It's John Legend's showcase, Sean Paul, there's Anthony Hamilton, Rashawn Patterson. It's quite amazing.
Wow.
from nowhere. You know, these have suddenly popped up, and I've got them here.
Well, they must be incredible. Also, what would you, somebody who's starting out in the business these days, what do you think?
Oh.
It's just crazy now, right? Hard to break through?
It's hard and it's easier because if you, which is something I can't do or haven't mastered, if you master YouTube and Twitter and TikTok and God only knows what else there is, you can build up a following without anybody really coming to see you or a record company or anything like that.
Right.
So if you can do that, there's still potential for you to, then how marketable it is, I just don't know.
Right.
And thankfully I don't have to know because my two main streams, if you like, were movies and what we call library music, production music.
Right.
And they get used and you get payments for no matter what. You know, you're still getting royalties that you would ever get 10 years ago.
Right.
If I were a songwriter doing an album, I'd panic, you know. I hear stories about the person who wrote Kylie Minogue's last record getting $100 in royalties.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I see all these guys selling their catalogs now, their music catalogs.
Yeah.
I thought they'd be getting a lot more money for them, like Bob Dylan. I forgot.
I think David Crosby and Bob Dylan.
Yeah, Dave Crosby. Linda Ronstadt sold hers this week, and they're getting kind of. I really thought they'd be getting somebody like Bob Dylan. I thought he'd be getting hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah,
and I think he walked away with 60 or something like that. I mean, I thought his catalog would be worth $1 billion. But
the problem is, I don't know. I was writing some songs a few years ago with Holly Knight, who wrote "Love Is a Battlefield."
Yeah.
And she was basically saying that her income stream has just sort of shriveled right away.
Yeah.
Because if she wrote for a Meatloaf album, she would get money regardless of anything if the album sold.
Right.
Now, people go on whatever it might be, iTunes or wherever, and they go, I like that one, I don't like that one, I'm not having that, I'm not having that. So you could be doing a multi-million dollar selling project and only make one sale.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
Yeah, and also
it's why
streaming doesn't pay.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky in a way because if they show a film, I get money for the film that's shown.
Right.
Doesn't matter whether it's Titanic or some nonsense that I've forgotten doing. Christmas film that comes on the 24-hour movie channel, and I go, oh God, I did that, didn't I? But I still get paid.
Wow. So yeah,
there is actually one Christmas film that I did that crops up every year.
Really?
Which is very nice.
Which one?
It's called Mr. St. Nick with Kelsey Grammer.
Really? I'll have to check that out. Okay.
Cool. It screens every year.
Well,
all I remember is I did some absolutely cracking salsa tracks in the film. Absolutely roaring. And it was one of the things where the musicians, I won't say actually physically applauded, but they were going, oh, this is so great, so wonderful. And of course the director wanted sort of sub-Ricky Martin salsa pop.
Okay.
And he replaced all my stuff with that. And the editor rang me and said, you won't believe what this guy's putting in instead of your music. My score stayed, but all the sort of salsa-y type stuff just went out the window.
Yeah, well, okay. So, guys, I know you jammed with Jimi Hendrix. Did you hang with him? Did you guys get to bond at all, or?
spoke to him a couple of times. I wouldn't say we hung out, but he knew me well enough to say hello.
Okay.
That's really it. I never got into a deep conversation with him.
But okay.
The only thing I remember was I don't think it was he who told. It was somebody in his entourage told me that Miles Davis had approached him, and he was really nervous, and he didn't want to do it. And I said, well, Miles obviously wants him for what he does, so he should feel confident about it.
Right.
But I can't remember who that was. It might have been Mitch Mitchell. It might have been one of his management team.
Okay.
But my memory's fuzzy on that. But it wasn't Hendrix himself.
Yeah, that's funny because Miles also worked with Prince later on. He went from one, he just went through the eras. And I know Peter Green, you knew it well.
Very well, yes.
Yeah, and prior to his problems, what kind of guy was Peter? He was,
very down to earth, modest, likable.
Yeah.
You could chat with him about anything. I wouldn't say dismissive of his abilities, but he was very into playing with like-minded people.
Okay.
It wasn't sort of, right, I'm the star, who can I get to back me up? It was, you're doing something interesting. Okay. I want to explore what you're doing with you a lot more, which is how I came into it. Yeah. Because as soon as we played together the first time, we connected.
And that's
therefore, it was a gift that we'd carry on.
And that's a great way to be as a player, looking for people who...
it's the only way to be.
Yeah, who are, maybe even better than you, that you can kind of, learn from. There's always a learning process in music. I mean, I guarantee you...
Well, it's also a thing of how do I do what I can do in the context of what someone else is doing and respond to them in such a way that it stimulates them to do something else. So it's a sort of a ping-pong effect.
Yeah.
Where you're both bouncing off each other.
Right.
And I got that a lot with Peter. I got that a lot I tried to get it with everybody I work with. But sometimes you'll play... It's why I particularly don't enjoy jam sessions, because everybody is competing.
Right.
And as soon as you're competing, you're not making music. You're just in some sort of, chest beating situation. I'm better than you, I'm quicker than you, I'm faster than you, or whatever it might be.
Okay, that makes sense. So, what do you think about the new music out there these days?
I have to confess, I don't listen to too much. I'm not really interested in rap or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm not that interested in mainstream pop music at all. What I like listening to people like Jacob Collier, who played piano with me for a couple of years. I like what John Batiste is doing, and I enjoy playing with him. There are people I listen to. What I do tend to find, though, a lot, is that I listen to, either music from, 70s or 80s, right back to the 1920s. Because it's what I grew up closest to in my listening.
Right.
It's like when I was 3, I was listening to Count Basie and Duke Ellington.
Yeah.
And now I'm 71 and I'm listening to Count Basie and Duke Ellington.
Right.
You're still getting more and more out of it. So
plus I'm that way too. If I listen to something, I tend to backtrack it, see where it came from, see what the origins were.
Yeah.
And you're pretty you came from a family that started a lot of that music.
Absolutely. Which is marvelous.
Yeah.
Marvelous. But also things like, I was in writing the book, for example. I mean, I played with Fred McDowell, Son House,
right.
Champion Jack Dupre, Lowell Fulson,
Wow.
B.B. King, Muddy Waters. You know, it's unbelievable. It would be unbelievable if I were a blues specialist musician.
Right.
I'm not.
Right.
So to have all those people in your CV and yet do other stuff, that to me was the interesting thing, because a lot of people would say, "Oh yeah, I played with Little Willie Littlefield or Big J McNeely or whoever it is,"
Yeah.
and that's because I'm a rock and roll R&B fanatical musician who specialises in 1930s to 60s blues.
Right.
But I'm not.
Right. No, you were.
And that's
you actually you played with Little Richard as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah, yeah. And so you've played blues, you played R&B, you played rock, you played New Age.
Yep.
You've been involved in New Age, and
Yep.
and everything that came after that. And that's quite an amazing toolbox you have there of talent.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And the reason was I never had closed ears.
Right.
So if I heard some country and western music that sounded good, I would listen to it. It wasn't like, oh, I don't like country and western.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't stand this. I can't. So even saying, you know, I'm not fond of rap, okay. I'm not fond of what passes for musical part of it.
Uh-huh.
But if there is something musical about it that happens, like, I don't know, Kendrick Lamar or someone like that,
Uh-huh.
then I'm into it. You know, I listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that you've done so much serious music and were able to put on your Monty Python hat and do that whole thing, you know, it's quite an amazing feat. So I'm looking at some of the films that you've worked on. Funny Bones, Beautiful Thing, The Matchmaker. There's a ton of them. People don't realize.
Oh, 50-something.
Yeah. People, you know, it's quite an amazing history. Then TV. You left a mark in TV. You've done a lot of TV work, and then you've even taken your talents to commercials.
Yep.
And the what I keep reading is you've done over 4,000 TV commercials.
Yep.
And wow. So TV.
It's scary. True.
What are some of the companies that you've done TV commercials for?
You name them, I've done them, I think.
Yeah, you must have.
All the airlines. I mean, even TWA and Pan American.
Yeah.
You know?
They didn't work. That didn't work that well.
No, Apple Computers. I did their second commercial.
Wow.
I said this will never catch on.
Uh-huh. Wow.
All the drinks, all the cars, all the clothing lines, all the perfumes. You name it, I've done it. Okay. Basically.
Cool. Wow. And that's just I don't know how you got time for this. How you fit that in?
No, it was like a conveyor belt. You know, I was talking to my friend the other day, and we were remembering when I would do 5 or 6 commercials in a week.
Wow.
Apart from everything else.
Yeah. Just quite amazing. Quite amazing. And
I also have to say that the 4,000 figure includes cut downs, 40 second, 20 second, 10 second, 60 second.
Okay, see, that's how you did it.
Yeah, I didn't actually compose 4,000.
Well, I'm giving you credit for 4,000. That's all that counts.
Okay, no, it was because even if I were writing an arrangement, for which I did a lot of, because I covered all the bases, I could range, I could do takedowns, I could conduct classical music, I could do a jazz track, I could do rock and roll, I could do country and western.
Sure.
All the work came to me, and even when people switched direction and said, "Oh, this sounds a bit jazzy. Could it be more 19th century romantic classical music?" I would sort of switch gear and
there you go.
yes,
okay,
that could be like that.
Wow, what a mind! What it must be incredible. I'd love to spend I'd love to spend an hour just in your brain and just trying to figure out how that works.
Very prospect.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's quite an incredible feat. Okay, so what's the future? What does the future look like?
Well, as I say, I've got my book coming out hopefully in the autumn. I hope. A few writing projects in store. Once we get back to playing, I want to get back to playing, obviously.
Sure.
And just keep staying healthy and doing as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going for, anyway.
And what's the target date on the book?
Autumn, I hope.
Okay. Okay, so we'll look forward to that. And yeah, so I think man, we covered a lot of area. And I think, what else can we talk about? Is there anything you want to get out there that you want to discuss before we end? You're such a, I mean, I know what I know. I don't know what I don't know.
No, I mean, it's basically just what has come out of writing the book. I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed basically everything I've had to work on, and it's been. I've met some great people. I've played with some great people. I've written for some great people. I couldn't ask for more, really.
Not Your Mother's Radio is listener funded. If you wish to contribute, our PayPal info is notyourmothersradio@gmail.com. That's notyourmothersradio@gmail.com. We would like to thank you in advance for any contributions. Eliot definitely is not your mother.